The first body is found on a Tuesday, near the docks at Queenhithe. A wool merchant's servant, dead in his bed, his neck swollen to the size of a fist. His landlord drags the corpse into the alley before dawn. No one reports it. No one connects it to anything. By the end of the week, there are 4 more bodies in Southwark. London in the autumn of 1348 still believes it has time. The city holds perhaps 70,000 people, packed inside a wall built by the Romans. Streets are narrow enough to touch both sides with outstretched arms. Upper floors lean toward each other, blocking out the sky. Rain collects in open gutters that carry butcher's waste and human sewage to the Thames. Rats move freely through the straw floors of every house, every tavern, every church. The air always smells of something rotting. That smell is about to get much, much worse. Word has already arrived from the continent, carried by traders and sailors. Merchants in Bordeaux spoke of entire towns emptied in a matter of weeks. Genoese sailors carried stories of eastern cities where the dead outnumbered the living. A few London traders have stopped importing cloth from Avignon, but no one truly understands what these stories mean. The plague is still a rumor from somewhere else, something foreign and impossibly far away. What no one grasps yet is how it actually moves through a human body. There are 3 forms of this disease, and London will meet all of them before winter ends. The first is bubonic, carried by fleas that live on black rats. A single flea bites, and within 3 to 5 days, the lymph nodes begin to swell. These swellings appear in the groin, the armpit, or the neck. They grow to the size of eggs, sometimes apples, sometimes larger still. They turn dark purple, then black, stretching the skin until it splits. They are called buboes, and they are searingly painful to the slightest touch. Fever follows, then vomiting, then a smell rising from the body like nothing any physician has encountered. About half the people who develop bubonic plague will die from it within a week. The second form is worse. Pneumonic plague attacks the lungs directly and spreads through the air. It passes from cough to cough, from breath to breath, from mouth to mouth. Symptoms appear within 1 to 2 days of exposure. The victim drowns in blood and fluid accumulating inside their own chest. The fatality rate is nearly 100% regardless of treatment. No medieval remedy even slows it down. And in a city where 10 people share a single room, every cough becomes a death sentence handed to everyone present. The third form kills fastest of all. Septicemic plague enters the bloodstream and overwhelms the body within hours. The skin turns deep purple, almost black, as blood pools and clots beneath the surface. Some victims die before any visible swelling appears at all. A man could feel a mild ache at midday and be dead before the bells ring vespers. This is the form that will terrify London's physicians most because it offers no warning and no window for intervention. By the time they arrive, there is nothing left to treat. By late October, the cases are no longer limited to the docks and riverside parishes. They appear in Cheapside, in Cornhill, in the cramped and sunless lanes behind the shambles. A household wakes to find a child burning with fever and crying in pain. By nightfall, the child's neck is grotesquely swollen, the skin darkening around the lump. By the following morning, 2 more family members show the same signs. The family seals themselves inside, nailing the door shut, hoping prayer will be enough. No one comes to help them. No one knows what help would even look like. London's physicians try everything they know, and everything they know is wrong. They lance the buboes with heated blades, releasing black pus that smells of decay. They bleed patients who are already weakened, far beyond any hope of recovery. They prescribe theriac, a paste of dozens of ingredients including opium and dried viper flesh. Some recommend holding bouquets of lavender and rosemary to the face constantly. Others suggest sitting between 2 large fires to sweat out the bodily corruption. The more learned cite ancient texts about imbalances of the 4 humors. None of it works. The physicians who get close enough to treat patients begin dying themselves within days. By November, several of the most prominent have fled the city entirely. The church offers the only other framework for understanding what is happening to London. Priests announce from pulpits that the pestilence is God's punishment for the sins of mankind. Flagellants will appear across the continent, whipping themselves bloody in public squares to appease divine wrath. In London, the response is quieter, but no less desperate in its fervour. People confess sins they have carried in silence for decades. They donate everything they own to parish churches and chantries. They pray through the night, crowded together in candlelit naves, breathing the same warm, stale air. The most devout gatherings become the most efficient killing grounds in the city. What makes this catastrophe fundamentally different from famine or war is its terrifying speed. A street can go from healthy to half dead in less than 2 weeks. The plague does not discriminate by class, though it punishes the poor first and hardest. The wealthy live in larger houses with fewer people sharing each room. They eat better, which gives them marginally stronger resistance to infection. They can afford to leave, and many do, retreating to country manners. But even wealth cannot buy understanding of a disease no one can see or explain. Rich men die clutching rosaries in oak-panelled chambers, their servants already cold in the rooms below. The infrastructure of daily life begins to buckle in ways no one anticipated or planned for. Bakers die, and bread becomes scarce across entire neighbourhoods. Brewers die, and the ale that Londoners depend on more than water starts to run short. The men who normally haul waste from the streets simply stop coming to work. Animal carcasses rot in the lanes, alongside bodies no one has claimed. The Thames watermen, who ferry passengers across the river, refuse to take on strangers. Trade slows, then stops entirely. Ships sit at anchor in the Pool of London, with no one willing to unload them. London is not just losing people to the plague, it is losing every invisible system that keeps a medieval city functioning. The graveyards fill first, and they fill fast. Parish churchyards in London are small, many no larger than a cottage garden. They are not designed for death on this scale. Within weeks of the outbreak spreading, there is simply no room to dig new graves. Bodies are stacked 3 and 4 deep in existing plots, the earth barely covering them. The smell around every parish church becomes unbearable, even by medieval standards. The Bishop of London purchases a large open field near East Smithfield for emergency burial. Workers begin digging long trenches, 10 feet deep and wide enough for dozens of bodies. The dead are laid in rows, shoulder to shoulder, layer upon layer, with thin coverings of soil between. These are not graves in any traditional sense. They are storage for a crisis that has outrun every plan. Priests are now refusing to attend the dying. This is the detail that collapses public trust more than any other single failure. In medieval London, the last rites are not a comfort or an option. They are an absolute spiritual necessity. Without confession and absolution at the moment of death, a soul risks eternal damnation. The dying beg for priests who never come, who will not enter infected houses. Some desperate families drag their sick relatives to church doors and leave them on the steps. The Archbishop of Canterbury eventually issues a dispensation, allowing ordinary lay people to hear deathbed confession. It is an extraordinary admission that the Church itself is failing at its most fundamental duty. The one institution that offers the only available explanation for suffering cannot bring itself to witness it. Landlords abandon their properties when tenants begin dying in clusters. Entire households are discovered dead together days later, bolted inside from within. Neighbours find them only when the smell seeping through the walls becomes impossible to ignore. In some cases, the bodies have been dead for a week or more before anyone opens the door. The dead are found in beds, on dirt floors, slumped against walls with hands still clasped in prayer. Dogs and rats have already been at the exposed flesh. The men who collect bodies for the mass burial pits are now among the highest paid workers in London. They demand enormous sums for each corpse they carry. they are also among the most likely to die within weeks of starting the work. Children die in numbers that no surviving chronicle fully captures or dwells upon. A mother might lose 2 or 3 children in a single week to the same disease. There is no time to mourn each one individually, no space for separate burials. Grief itself becomes a luxury that the living cannot afford. Families bury children in mass pits alongside strangers and adults and people from other parishes. The emotional toll of this is something no medieval writer attempts to describe directly, but the parish records tell the story in a different language. Entire family lines, surnames recorded for generations, simply vanish from the rolls between autumn and spring. By January of 1349, London is experiencing something no living person has ever witnessed or imagined. The death rate peaks during the coldest months, when people huddle closest together for warmth. Pneumonic plague thrives in the winter air, spreading fastest in enclosed and crowded spaces. The coughing in packed rooms carries an almost certain death to everyone who hears it. Streets that once held dozens of families now stand completely and eerily silent. Market stalls sit empty with unsold goods still on display, slowly rotting. A city that was deafeningly loud just 6 months ago now has long stretches of genuine quiet. That silence is the sound of 40,000 people who are simply no longer there. The survivors who emerge from their houses each morning face a world that no longer operates by its old rules. Labor is suddenly and desperately scarce, which means the poorest surviving workers can demand wages unthinkable a year ago. Landlords, who once held absolute power over tenants, now find themselves begging anyone to stay and farm their land. The rigid social hierarchy that governed every aspect of English life for centuries has been fundamentally destabilized in a single season. The Crown will eventually respond by passing the Statute of Labourers, attempting to freeze wages at pre-plague levels by force of law. It will fail completely. You cannot legislate away the economic consequences of losing half a population. The dead are not mourned in the way we might expect, because the scale makes traditional mourning impossible. The rituals that give death meaning in this society require time, attention, and ordained priests. None of these are available in sufficient quantity during the worst months. Some bodies are buried in the mass pits without any ceremony whatsoever. Some are burned outside the walls when the trenches cannot be dug fast enough. Some are simply left where they fell until someone desperate enough for the coin agrees to move them. The boundary between the sacred treatment of the dead and raw practicality has dissolved entirely. When spring finally arrives, the plague begins to slow its advance through the city. Warmer weather reduces the pneumonic transmission that drove the horrific death toll of winter. But the city that emerges into the pale March sunlight is unrecognizable from the one that entered autumn. Between 40 and 60% of London's entire population has died in roughly 6 months. Entire parishes have been effectively erased from the living city. The East Smithfield burial ground alone holds many thousands of bodies laid out in careful, ordered rows. Archaeologists who excavated the site centuries later found the dead positioned deliberately, even during the worst weeks. Someone took the time to lay each body out with care and basic dignity. That small, stubborn act, repeated thousands of times in the middle of absolute horror, may be the most human detail in this entire catastrophe. The plague does not truly leave London after that first spring. It will return in devastating waves for the next 300 years. The survivors of this first outbreak carry something inside them that no official record fully captures. They have watched their entire city consume itself from the inside out over a single winter. They have learned through direct experience that faith does not protect the faithful. They have seen that medicine does not cure, that wealth does not guarantee survival, that authority cannot maintain order when the bodies pile faster than anyone can count them. What they are left with is not wisdom or resilience in any simple sense. It is the knowledge of what happens when every story you have told yourself about safety turns out to be exactly that. Historians still debate what truly killed London fastest: the density, the ignorance, or the total collapse of the institutions meant to hold everything together. Which failure haunts you most reveals something about what you believe actually holds a society in place. These reconstructions continue, one place at a time.